All right, bro. So now that we have an email finder connected, we're connected everything into our Google Sheets and we're dumping the emails and we set up the function inside of here so that way the emails go in the correct place and the correct order that they're coming out of an email finder and Amplify. What we have to do next is going to be the very first time that we're going to be introducing AI to this AI automation system. Right now, we're going to configure the very first ChatGPT node, which means I'm going to be able to walk you through how you're going to be able to use an AI's brain inside of your AI automation system for the very first time. So everything we're about to walk through right now is a special part of this because it is one of the core foundational things that you need to know how to do and how to understand, okay? So what we're going to do now is we are going to connect AI's brain inside of our AI system right now. And Miles, if you look at the version that I just gave you right now, after the Google Sheets and an email finder, we have a specific ChatGPT module, which is designed to figure out the people's first names in that email, right? So let's just say we pulled 9 emails. The first one is Tom at blah, blah, blah. This guy is literally going to examine every single email in that list and figure out if people's first names exist and actually figure out their name from that email. That is literally its only job. Now, I want you to notice something right here. We have a filter in between that says, I want you to only go through this if an email exists. So before we set this up, I'm going to show you what a filter is and how it works. And we're going to actually set up our very first filter so that way you guys can see it in real time, actually do what it needs to do. So at this point, we're going to click the plus sign and we are going to search for ChatGPT. Okay, that's going to be the AI that we're going to be using at this point. The reason why I use this is because 1, everybody's familiar with it, and 2, it is super easy to set up. But keep in mind, you have so many other options inside of here besides ChatGPT. Let's just say you wanted to use the Chinese model called DeepSeek, okay? If you just search for it, you're gonna be able to see this DeepSeek AI, and this is the exact same thing, okay? And let's just say you wanted to use a whole other one. Let's just say you wanted to use Claude. You have a whole other, it's basically the exact same thing, but they're different AI providers. And as you guys keep doing this, you're gonna understand the differences between them. But right now, we're just gonna use, what's that?
Can you use Grok?
Let's see if you can use Grok. Oh, there it is. This is Grok right here. It's technically called XAI. It's not called Grok. But I mean, like, it is called Grok, but this is it right here. This is Grok. So yes, you can. Oh, that's SpaceX. Hold up. There it is. This is Grok right here. Now, do you notice how I said earlier that create a chat completion is going to be universal? So right now, we're not looking at ChatGPT. We're literally looking at Grok, which is Twitter's AI. And you can see create a completion is an option right here. This is literally the same creating a completion that we're going to be using when we set up ChatGPT. This generating the word completion is going to be what you're looking for when you are setting up AI systems and you want to involve AI inside of your system, right? You're looking for this module right here, right? It might seem like you want to generate a response, but I explained to you that this one, you can't really system prompt it. So these are going to be the ones you're going to be able to actually system prompt and get it to do what you want it to do. All right, so boom, right? We just landed inside of the modules for ChatGPT. The thing that we're going to be looking for is going to be generating a completion, right? We're not generating a response. We're not deleting responses. We're not getting a response. We're not doing anything else that's available right here. We're generating a completion because this is the module that allows us to give an AI a system prompt. Now, at this point, if you guys have been following along and you built the very first system that Miles and I built, which is the autoresponder, you're not going to have to recreate a brand new connection because your API key, your connection is already saved, right? This is something that's going to prop down here in the dropdown. But if you haven't been watching and you just want to set up that connection all over again, go back to that part of the video, grab your API key from openai.platform.com and then add it right here. And then once you click save, you're going to have your connection directly into the AI's brain. So at this point, what do I have to do, right? I have to select the model that I want to do this. And the way that I'm going to make my selection is, think about it, right? The entire task of what I want this AI to do is simply looking at an email and looking at the first part of that email and finding out if that first part has somebody's first and last name or just their first name. This is extremely simple, right? It is not a complex task. So I can pretty much get away with choosing one of the dumbest models, the cheapest ones that I could possibly find here, okay? Because it is such a stupid task. It is not anything complex. And so I'm literally gonna go to the API pricing page for ChatGPT, and I'm gonna see what is the cheapest, smartest model that I can get away with, right? I'm gonna try to find out what is the cheapest, smartest model that I can get away with using without having to spend a lot of money on the tokens. All right, so far I'm looking at 20 cents per 1 million for 4.1 nano, 80 cents output. So this is $1 total for 1 million. Let's see. Can we find something cheaper than $1? We got 80 cents, $3. This one's out. $3. This one's out. $4. This one's out. So 4.1 right now is the winner. Let's click explore the detailed. And here we can see a much better view of all of these, right? Let's just see. So actually it looks like 4 ohm mini is 15 cents input and then 60 cents going out. So this guy is 75 cents for 1 million. Whereas 4.1 nano is actually 10 cents going into it and 40 cents going out of it. So this one is cheaper, right? This one is 50 cents total, 4.1 nano. I think this one right here is probably going to be the cheapest option that we have. So I'm just going to choose 4.1 nano and run with it. So I'm going to jump back here in the model selection. I'm going to try to find 4.1 nano, which is right here. And you can see a description under it, right? Fastest, most cost efficient version of ChatGPT 4.1. I'm going to click that guy. And just like we did before, we're going to have to configure 2 things. So Miles, what are the 2 things that we have to configure inside of the AI's configuration?
An API?
No. Why is the answer not API?
I don't know. You got me.
The only time you need an API key is when you're connecting into it, when you're creating a connection for the very, very first time. So you can see we're already inside of our connection. If we didn't have a connection, we wouldn't be able to see all these different fields right here. So at this point, we already used our API key, right? If I clicked add right here and I put in my API key to create a connection for the very, very first time and I click save, I am now going to see this exact page. But what do we have to configure here, right? We already use our API key. What are the 2 things we need that the AI needs to know what it needs to do?
We need to tell it, we need to give it a prompt.
So what is the difference between generating a completion and that other module that we looked at where it just says generate a response? Do you remember the difference between them?
Shit, explain it.
So remember, you have different kinds of prompts that go into it, right? And if I click this drop down, you have your system prompt, which is the instructions. And then you have the user prompt, which is the actual content that the AI is going to interact with while using its system prompt. So the 2 things that we're going to have to configure is our system prompt. Remember, you did this for the autoresponder. We typed up this big old system prompt telling it, you know what? I want you to address somebody by their first name. I want you to say, hey, and I want you to use BRBR. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
We configured a system prompt and then we gave it the things that it's going to be interacting with in its user prompt. So that's what we have to do right now. We're going to have to press on the system prompt here and give it those instructions. So what do we want this AI to do, right? Think about what's happening at this point. This AI is going to be getting a bunch of people's emails one by one. What do we want it to do when it gets those emails, Miles?
Find the first name.
Okay, so how should we instruct the AI to do that? What are we going to say word for word?
I want you to look.
Now remember remember the instructions I told you when you're creating a system prompt. What is the very first thing you tell an AI?
Oh, you are a.
You give it a role, exactly. So you are, and just make up whatever the job is. So an expert email analyzer, right? This is not a real title, but this is a role, right? It tells it. Actually, instead of email analyzer, we're going to say email address analyzer because that's better, right? We're telling it this is what you are good at. You're an expert at email address analysis. Now, what do we want it to do, Miles?
You want it to go into the Google Sheets doc and look all throughout the emails that you are provided with and find the first name in each email.
Before we tell it what we specifically want it to do, it needs to know. So, okay, let me backtrack. At this point, you remember this guy, this AI is going to be getting some sort of information from one of these modules before it, right? What is that information that it's going to be getting?
The emails, right?
The emails. Okay, let's think about where it's getting those emails from. What are we going to be mapping inside of its configuration that shows it the emails? Where are they going to be coming from? Are they going to be coming from an email finder? Are they going to be coming from Google Sheets? Where are they going to be coming from?
Google Sheets.
Why Google Sheets?
Because it's already provided on the list, on the sheets.
So let's do this. I'm just going to temporarily quick save. I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to run this module only. And then I'm going to give it, say, 2 different email addresses here. Okay. We're going to say miles@gmail. And then we're going to say test@gmail. Now you remember this Google Sheets thing has the function in it. So this is fine. Me giving it to this should be fine. I'm going to click OK. And right now it just finished. So we can see this is its output. Okay. The output that it got does it include the email addresses, Miles? Look at the output.
No. So any mail finder then.
So, but this is a very important point, because in order for you to know what the AI is going to be getting, you have to know where that information is coming from. So obviously right now you said, it's going to be getting it from the Google Sheets. Well, the Google Sheets guy is not getting it from Google Sheets, is getting it from something before that. And that something before that is an email finder. So at this point right now, we're trying to figure out where those emails are going to be coming from to feed it into the AI. And obviously the output of Google Sheets is not that. This is just, some metadata. It's telling you, what, I did my job and I put them all in row 8. And you see if I open this up, it threw them right here. Okay, this is just for testing. So let's run the email finder guy. Okay, I'm gonna run this guy on the Roto-Rooter. Right now it should be on Roto-Rooter because we have it static here. So I'm gonna run it and then let's see what happens, right? You get that list right here. This is the package. This is the array. So if I go back here into ChatGPT and I said, you are an expert email address analyzer, and we know that we're gonna be giving it several different emails. How is it gonna know what's happening, what to do with each email? Remember how I said every single AI in this assembly line is like an employee? So think about you, Miles, as an employee. You just got hired into a building and your manager doesn't give you any instructions about what your job is. He just says, hey, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. And you have no fucking clue why you're doing it or what's happening or anything. Are you gonna do a good job or are you gonna do a shitty job? Probably not gonna be doing the best job. So literally treat this guy like an employee, right? We're giving it a role. You're an expert email address analyzer. The next thing we have to do is we have to tell it what's happening, right? The context. So what is our context in this situation, Miles? Don't overthink it, bro. Just tell it what's about to happen. That's it.
You're going to be getting a list of emails from
You will be receiving a list of emails. It doesn't care where those emails are coming from. We're just telling it what's happening, right? Because this guy only has one job, and that job is what we're telling it. So we're going to be telling it, you're going to be receiving a list of emails. It doesn't matter if I say from Google Sheets or from fucking Email Finder or from Mars. It doesn't give a shit. That adds zero value to its job. So I'm going to be saying you will be receiving a list of emails, okay? And what is it supposed to do with these emails?
It's supposed to go through them and find the first name in each email.
Go through the email you receive and find out if there is a first name, right, within the email. Now, how can we make this better, Miles?
Add an S onto emails to tell it that it's going to be receiving more than one.
Let's just say it receives one or more than one. Us telling it you're going to be getting more than one email or getting one email doesn't really matter, because the thing we want it to do is going to be the same regardless of what it's getting. So I could say you're going to be getting a bunch of emails, or I could say you're going to be getting an email. That's not the thing that we can do to make it actually better. How can we make its job better? Think about, let's just say you just got hired and somebody is explaining to you how to do something. What is the next thing that somebody can do to make sure that you actually know what the fuck you're going to do? Think about it.
The next step?
What is the next step? Somebody is training you for a brand new job and they explain it to you verbally. What's the next step that they would do to make sure that you know how this job is done? Don't think too hard, bro.
Are we talking about telling what the ChatGPT to do?
Think about the real world. You just got hired and somebody is explaining to you how to do a job verbally. They're just talking to you. What can they do better to make sure that you actually get to understand the thing they're talking about in a real world? What would that be? Just think about it, bro. It's not that complicated.
Explain it in depth?
No, they just sat in front of you and they explained to you 25 steps of how to do a job. What's the very next thing they need to do? Are they just going to randomly throw you to that job?
Finish the job.
What?
Tell you how to finish the job.
No. Are they just going to randomly throw you to the job after explaining it only verbally in 25 different fucking steps?
I don't know. You got me stumped, bro.
Bro, they're going to show you. They're going to take you and actually do the job in front of you. They're going to show you an example of how that job is done, right? So you get a sales job, and the person that's teaching you the sales job is only explaining it. Don't you think as part of your training, they're going to have you shadow a real salesman that's actually doing it in front of you?
True.
Right? They're going to show you. They're going to give you an example. So just like a real job, we are going to give this AI an example of what it's going to be getting and what it needs to do with it. Like I said, bro, don't think too hard. Just treat it like what would happen in the real world.
So how are we going to show it?
This is how we're going to show it, right? We are literally going to say word for word. For example, you would receive something like tom at blah blah.com. Or you know what? Let's change blah blah to companyname.com. In this email, you would see that Tom is a first name, which means the guy's first name is Tom. Again, super simple. I'm just giving it a quick example to calibrate it and make sure that it knows what we're looking for in its output, right? Now, the only other situation that it can run into is if there's a last name, right? And so we're going to say if there is a last name, for example, and we're going to give it another example where there's a last name, right? We're going to say tom.hanks@companyname.com. You would recognize that Tom is a first name and Hanks is a last name, right? So what we just did is we told it what it's supposed to be doing. We gave it its role, and then we gave it context as to what's about to happen. And then we gave it 2 examples that it might run into. By the way, this is word for word exactly what we did when we were creating the autoresponder system. Exactly, but you're going to have to get very familiar with this process right here. And now that we gave it 2 examples for this, we're going to say one more thing. We're going to say that the thing that it outputs needs to be only the first name or only the first and last name. We don't want it to say something like, sure, here is the first name, and then give us the first name. Because you know, like when you type to an AI, it doesn't just answer you with what the thing that you're looking for. It might include some words before that, just talking to you, or it might include some words after that. It might say something like, let me know what's the next thing you want me to do. Obviously, we don't care about those words, right? We don't want them in whatever output is going to be coming out of this guy. So we're going to be telling that word for word. We're going to say only output the emails and no other wording at all. Boom, that's it, right? So now we have the system primed. We gave this AI its instructions of what it needs to do. Now the next thing we have to give it is the emails that it's going to be working with. And obviously, we're not going to be doing that in a system prompt. We're going to be doing that in a brand new user prompt. I explained to you earlier, a user prompt is the content that the AI is going to be interacting with. So what do you think we should do right here, Miles, right? We want to feed this AI an email, and we only want it to write the message to one person. We don't want it to write 9 different messages for every specific business. What do we have to do to give it that email right here?
We would map in the sheets from Google Sheets
So,
or the spreadsheet.
okay, you know what? I'll go with you right now. What the hell would you map from Google Sheets, bro? Where do you see any emails here?
So you wouldn't map in anything from Google Sheets then?
Absolutely not. Because we already went through that Google Sheets output has no emails. When it does its job, it just gives you metadata, right? Random data that says, you know what? I just did my job and I put that information in row 8 and I updated these cells and these columns and I put it on this sheet and here's that sheet's ID and all this random shit that we don't really care about. Here, we want to make sure that we're giving it one email only because its job is going to be writing to one of the people inside of that list that we pulled. So how do we give it one email only? Think about what we did inside of the Google Sheets configuration.
We'll map in the emails from an email finder.
Okay.
Emails.
Okay. I'll go with you there. Let's just say we're going to map in emails from an email finder. This is emails from an email finder. I'm hovering over it and I see this is an array, meaning this is a list. So are we going to map the entire list here?
No, we would,
What do we have to do to make it use only one email? We literally did this same exact thing inside of Google Sheets configuration.
I forget what the fuck it's called.
Okay, I'll hover over these and I'll let you see if you can find it. Did you see it?
Right there.
This one?
Function. Yeah. No.
So here's the thing, right? Technically, the fact that you picked this, you're not wrong because what we are looking for is a function
I forgot what the fuck the name was.
No, you're good. You're good. What you're looking, by the way, like I'm so happy you chose this because what we're looking for is a function. Remember, the function is like a tool that lets us only work with one thing out of an entire list. Remember the olives example that I gave you on the pizza? So
Yeah.
all of these right here that you just picked in this tab are different functions. Each of them does something different, okay? But the function that we want actually doesn't exist here. It is in general functions. So if I go to general functions, you can see this functions right here, and we're gonna be using which one, Miles? What's the function we used last time?
Fuck, I can't remember. It's
So just off of common sense, I want you to read every single word and tell me which one you think makes most sense to pick in the functions.
the parentheses.
Nope.
I remember it had the parentheses. I can't remember, bro.
It had the parentheses in it. What's your next pick?
Execution ID.
No, bro. That's not a
No,
function.
I'm just guessing shit now. I really
Okay,
can't remember.
it's gonna be get. Remember? So get is the same exact thing we had in that example that I went through. Remember, this is the example we talked about? We said we're gonna be using get because get allows us to get something from an array, which is just a list that looks like this, and we can tell it the order that that thing exists inside of this list. This is the get function. So that's what we're gonna be using. We're gonna throw in get inside of here. And what do we have to fill out inside of this?
What email we're gonna be picking, right? So
Remember the example. There's two things you need to fill out inside of it. And you know that because you have two
Okay,
parentheses.
We'd map in array right there in the front.
Okay, where's the array coming from here in the front?
The valid emails.
Okay, we throwing in the valid emails here. Boom. What next?
And then one. Well, it depends on which email we want to pick, right?
Exactly. It depends on which email we want to pick. Now, obviously, we have 9 different emails here. So, does it really matter which one we pick here?
Yes, because we want that ChatGPT thing to pull the first name for all the emails, right? Not just one.
So let's just say we pulled the first name for all 9 emails. Are we going to be writing 9 different personalized messages and sending 9 different ones just to Roto-Rooter?
Probably not.
Probably not. So yeah, we did get 9 emails, but that doesn't mean we're going to be using every single one of them. This AI is going to be writing a personalized message to just one person because we're going to be emailing one person. Maybe 2. If we really, really want it to be special, we can make it 2. And the way we would do that is by writing the number 1 here. So that way this guy writes to the first email it finds. And then what we can do is we can duplicate this entire module. And then we can open it up. And the only thing we would change is this thing becomes a 2. So now what we just did is we have 2 ChatGPTs that will extract the first name for 2 different email addresses out of a list that's coming out of an email finder. Now, I think this is excessive because you're not going to send 2 personalized emails to the same company at the same time. You're probably going to be sending one, and then you're going to follow up with that one and see where that follow-up goes. So I'm actually going to delete this, and I'm going to leave it as 1 because this is the main one that we're going to be using for our system. This is going to be the first person that we're going to be talking to.
Okay.
So do you see what we just did here, right? We gave it a system prompt, and we wrote
I
it.
figured it. Go ahead. I
So,
figured it would make more sense to send emails to all of them just to get more reps out. You know what I mean? But I guess in
but let's just say,
reaching out to-
all of the. Okay, so let's just pretend in a world where we just sent 9 different emails to all of them, right? Let's just say it's a local business and all of them work in the same office. Don't you think that one person is gonna read that email and another person is gonna read it and they're all gonna read their own version of it? And you don't think they're gonna talk about that? Like the fact that every single one of them got that literally screams the word bot. It screams automated. It screams this is not a person because nobody does that. They send every single one specific personalized emails and they're all in the same office and every single person gets one of them. That just literally sounds automated. We want this to be real because we wanted to simulate what would happen in the real world. And in the real world, somebody would send an email to one person in the company and hope that person responds to them. They're not going to flood the entire department. And you got to think about it. The fact that we have Roto-Rooter right now is not the norm because a lot of this is going to be local businesses. I would say about 10%, maybe 15% is going to be big companies. Most of them is going to be locally existing businesses because we're hitting a specific geographic area. So this is why we're only going with 1 email. Does that make sense, Miles?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It does make sense.
So let's just wrap this guy up. We are not expecting a huge output, right? We're only expecting somebody's first name or somebody's first and last name. So this 2048 tokens can stay. We're not expecting something huge. We don't care about that. So we're going to click save. And then I'm going to rename this just for organization purpose. So I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to say rename. And then we're going to name this first name guy. Okay. This guy just finds people's first names. That's it. Super simple for us to look at and know exactly what he does. Now, remember, I mentioned that there's a filter between these that says only go through if an email exists. And actually, before that, there's this thing called a router, but I'm not going to explain to you the router right here because we're literally going to use it again right here. Technically, this router is pretty fucking useless. So I'm going to explain it to you when we actually get to it. But we do have to set up a filter because we only want to do this if an email exists. If an email doesn't exist, we don't care to do that, right? We want that to stop right there. So we're going to jump back here and we're going to click this little wrench icon. Do you see it? Now this wrench icon is going to exist between two different modules, really literally right in the middle of their connection. And this is where you set up a filter. Now let me show you how this filter works, right? We're going to open it up and the first thing you can do is give it a name. So what is this filter for, right? Let's just say only if email exists. We're saying this filter will only allow things if the email exists. And here in the condition section is where we're going to get to set that filter. So the very first thing is going to be the first value that the filter looks at. What is that, Miles? We want to say only if an email exists. If I click this, where do these emails exist from here?
Valid emails.
Valid emails, right? Now,
how come it can just be emails?
What's that?
What's the difference between emails and valid emails?
So the difference between emails and valid emails is an email finder does a specific validation to every email it finds. And so if that validation is successful, meaning that email is verified and is active and is actually being used currently, then it will show you in the valid email section. But let's say a company has an email and that email hasn't been used in a while, or an email finder cannot 100% verify that this email belongs to this company, then it will still give it to you. It actually will not charge you any money for that, and it won't throw it in the valid email section. But this tells us that every email in the valid email section is a real human used email that is active and is accessible to anybody that wants to email it. That's the difference between that. So let's just say there are 10 emails that an email finder searched. And out of those 10, 7 of them belong to real people and they're actually active and they're actually being used. You will get 7 emails in the valid emails list, and then you're going to get all 10 in this one. So there's going to be 3 missing from this list because they weren't fully validated by an email finder, and you're not going to be charged for those. So now we have to map the condition, right? What is the thing that we are setting our filter about? What is that, right? Let's just talk about what the filter is. Only if an email exists, meaning we need the actual email here. How are we going to be able to map that, Miles?
Email status?
So email status could be used, but there is something better because we're saying we only want it if an email exists, okay? Now, an email status technically will only show valid if the email exists, meaning this is something we can filter by. But why would we go to something that is secondary? Why don't we just go straight to the source? The actual source is the fact that the email shows up in the valid emails list, right? So we can use either of these to do the filter. But instead of using a secondary thing that just tells us, you know what, this email is either valid or not valid, why don't we just look at the existence of that email? Right? We only care about if it's there.
Fair.
So how do we tell this filter only if this email exists? First thing we have to do is we have to put that email in this condition so that way it knows what it needs to look for. And how are we going to be able to do that, Miles?
We'll look in valid emails.
Okay, we're going to throw valid emails inside of here. Can we do that?
By the way that you said that, I'm thinking no.
Okay, remove the way that I said that. Why can we not do this?
Because it's just an array.
Because it's an array. It's actually just a package, right? This is not this filter is not seeing only the email that we care about, which is the first email, right? Because remember earlier we said hey, ChatGPT, I want you to only look at the very first email in this array and write a message to him, right? Figure out if this guy has a first name or not.
Yeah.
So we want it so that only if the very first email exists to pass through the filter. So do you understand the why behind we're only using the very first email here?
Yes, because it's what we told.
Because
ChatGPT, right?
the thing after it, which is ChatGPT, is looking for the very first email, right? So this
Yes, the
guy,
get.
this guy, when it receives input, it's only looking for that very first email. And obviously, if that very first email does not exist, it has nothing to do. Meaning the filter needs to be fully about this first email's existence, because that's what this guy's work for. Because that's what this guy is working to do, right? It needs it. So we're going to try to map that inside of here. We're going to say, I want only if the first email exists, I want it to pass through. Everything else, I don't care about. I don't want anything else to pass through.
So would we get?
Exactly. We would use the get function,
Yeah.
and then we would
And
only point it to the very first email. How are we going to do that, Miles?
valid emails.
We're going to throw valid emails here. And how's it going to know
And then
which email it needs?
One.
Cool. So now what we just did is we set the very first part of this filter. We're saying, here is the condition that I want you to use to validate if something passes the filter. We're talking about the very first email from this list. And now we have to tell it what it needs to actually do to make sure that this filter works. And the way we're going to do that is in this text operator. This is going to be what it does to the thing that we just gave it above, the actual variable. Now you can see there's a bunch of different operators. The very first two are going to be exists or does not exist. And then you have a bunch of more operators. Now look, Miles, here. These operators are in categories, okay? And every single category is labeled for a specific reason. For example, text operators. All of these right here, which are called operators, they only work with text. They're not designed for numbers. They're not designed for all this other stuff outside of just plain text. So you can see we can filter by if something is specifically equal to a specific piece of text. And you have the same exact thing in a case insensitive version. And then you have not equal to, and then you have contains. The same thing, case insensitive. You have do not contain. You have starts with. You have ends with. All of these different operators are just the logic that the filter is using to figure out what the hell it needs to do and how things are going to be passing through it. You're confused right now?
Kind of. I guess I just got to see how it works.
So let me show you a quick example before we actually do this, okay? So I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to open a brand new scenario, okay? And I'm going to show you how a filter works in real time. So look here, bro. This is a super tiny example of how a filter works, okay? This module, all it does is just output the thing that I tell it to output. That's all it does. So I'm telling it, hey, I want you to output a variable called first name, and the value for that is going to be Miles. So look, if I run this by itself, what happens is we get an answer in your name, okay? We get a variable called first name, and we can see that that variable has your name in it, right? So this is the output of this module. Now, let's just say I wanted a filter in between this and this ChatGPT node where only and only if the name is Miles with a capital M should it go through and actually reach this ChatGPT module. Okay? Think about what I just said. Only and only if the word that's coming out of here is capital M Miles, not lowercase m, specifically capital M. And when it reaches this ChatGPT node, what's going to happen is this ChatGPT is designed to say hi to the first name that it will be given. That's it. And then I came here and I mapped it. I said, hey, this is the first name. And you can see I just selected the first name variable from the thing before it, and I mapped it here, and I click save. So theoretically, Miles, whatever passes from here is going to jump into GPT, and this guy is just going to say hi to it, right? Now notice what's getting outputted by this guy. What is the output?
Miles with a capital M.
With a capital M, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a filter, and I'm going to say only lowercase m passes. That's what I'm gonna label it. And I'm going to say, here's the condition. If the first name that's coming from the module right before is equal to, and here I am going to type in Miles with lowercase. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling the filter only if the word is lowercase m, it needs to pass the filter. And I'm mapping the first name and I'm saying it needs to specifically equal to, and I'm typing in manually Miles with a lowercase m. Now, I'm not using case insensitive. The reason why is because I care about casing. Now look what happens here. I'm gonna click save. And now what happens is if I run this entire automation, what's gonna happen is this guy is gonna output the word Miles with a capital M. This filter is gonna look at that output and see that it starts with a capital M, and then it's gonna look at the rule that it has. Does this text equal this? If it does not exactly equal this, I will not let it through this to this module right here. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah. So run it.
So now I'm gonna run it, and look what happened. Did you see that? ChatGPT
Didn't
module did not run at all. We got no output. Do you see that? And
Yeah.
you can see the filter literally stopped it. If I open this up, I can see that something got stopped. And if I hover over it, it tells me what got stopped. So I'm gonna hover over this, and I can see this is Miles with a capital M, right? And we can see this is the filter that we set equal to, and then here's the value that we gave it, that it needs to do this against. And you can see this one is the lowercase m. And what was the outcome of that?
A big old
Fuck no. That's what happened. Now, did you see how that filter just worked?
Yeah.
Now look what happens.
That
Now let's
makes more
just say,
sense.
you know what? Only capital M passes. I want only things with a capital M. So I'm going to take this first name and I'm going to say text operator is specifically equal to, not the case insensitive version. This one cares about casing. And I'm going to change the value that I wanted to look for to a capital M. So now only if these two match exactly, that is when it's going to pass and hit this guy. So now I'm going to run it. And look what happened. It passed the filter, Miles. And this guy, look at the output. He just said, hi, Miles.
Okay.
Now, the only reason it passed Miles is because the filter that we set told it to specifically look for the thing that you're getting needs to equal to exactly what I'm about to give you right here. Now look what happens if we use the case insensitive. Now that we use the case insensitive, it doesn't matter. I'm going to change this back to lowercase Miles, okay? Look at this. This guy's lowercase right now, and we're using case insensitive, right? I'm going to keep the label because at this point, it doesn't matter. I'm going to click save, and then I'm going to run it. And it passed. You see that? We can see that the first name that it got was with a capital M, and the thing that we're telling it to compare against is a lowercase m, and it still passed it. The reason why it passed is because we used equal to case insensitive. I don't care about casing. Now, do you see how filters work here?
Yeah.
So
That makes more sense.
every single one of these operators has a specific job. This contains, meaning if I give you a sentence and that sentence contains a specific word that I want you to pass it through. I'm telling it, if the thing that I'm giving you starts with a specific thing that I care about, I want you to pass it through. And then you have the same thing with does not start. You have the same thing with ending with, or does not end with, or maybe matching a pattern. Do you see all these different options that you're going to be able to filter through?
Yeah.
Now, here's the cool part, right? Let's just say you're not working with text. You're working with numbers. Under this, you have a category that says numeric operators. These operators are specifically used for number filters. For example, if you wanted things to pass the filter only if they were bigger than a specific number, or only if they equal to a specific number, or if they don't equal a specific number, or if they're less than a specific number. And then you got greater than or equal to. You can see now you have a lot more flexibility inside of your AI automation because you can choose to only allow specific things to pass through your system if they meet your criteria. So let's just test out the number one, right? Let's just say, you know what? I want the numeric operator to be greater than 5, right? And so that means this thing that goes into this filter is going to be a number, right, Miles?
Yes.
So let's make this a number. Let's make this output a number. I'm going to say, you know what? I want this to be a number. and I want this number to be 6. I'm going to click save. So now I'm going to open this up and I'm going to say, you know what? If this number from the previous module that you're getting is greater than 5, I want you to pass through. And I'm just going to name this greater than 5. And I just saved it. Now what happens, Miles? If I run it, what do you think is going to happen? Is it going to pass or is it not going to pass?
It's not going to pass.
Miles, it's getting a number from the previous module, okay? And that number that it's getting is 6. And we're saying if the number that you get is greater than 5, I want you to pass.
No, it is going to pass.
So that means it is going to pass, right? See,
Right.
look, run once, it passed immediately. Because we used a numeric operator, this is designed specifically for numbers. Now watch this. What if I said less than instead of greater than? What if I jumped back into the numeric ones and I said, if the number that you're getting is less than 5, is the only time that you should pass the filter. Now we know the number it's getting is 6. So is this going to pass or not?
Yes. Or no.
No, this is not going to pass, right? Because look, it's getting 6. And it cares about if the 6, the number that it's getting, needs to be less than 5. Is 6 less than 5? No. Meaning,
Oh.
boom. See, look, it failed. It didn't pass. It literally says the number that you gave me is bigger than 5. And I only care about if it's less than. So do you understand how this filter works now?
Yes.
So now we're going to go back into our automation and we're going to set up a filter that says only pass through if the first email exists. How are we going to do that, Miles? Walk me through it. I don't even want to tell you. Just walk me through it.
So label you put only if first email exists.
Yes, so only if first email exists. What do we throw here?
Then you're gonna do that gear,
Okay.
and then you're gonna do get,
Okay.
and then you're gonna do array valid emails,
Okay.
and then you're gonna do 1.
Okay. So now
And then-
technically we have first email. Okay. The filter's looking at the first email. We care about if it exists. So what do we do next? Where do we go?
Text operators.
Okay.
You're gonna do exists.
Boom. Notice how the thing under it disappeared?
Yeah, can you do can you add?
Of course.
you-
You can add ands and you can add ors. So you can say if it exists or blank happens or this other thing happens. Or you could add an and rule. So the difference between these is and adds on top of this, right?
Yeah.
Meaning the thing that needs to pass this first condition and it needs to pass this condition as well. If it fails one of them, it will not go through the bridge. It will not go through and hit the next module. Does that make sense?
So we realistically don't even need to add and or.
At this
You know what I
point
mean?
right here in the automation, you do not need to add an and an or. And only because the next module works with the very first email. So at this point, we're saying if that first email exists, I want you to pass it through. Now here's something here that it's gonna probably confuse a lot of people, Miles. Now that we set this filter and we click save, we have a little bridge. It's like a security guard standing on this bridge. And this security guard is gonna be looking at that array that it's getting, right? And it's
Yep.
only gonna let the very first one pass. That's what the filter says, right? So let me show you really what's happening in the background, all right? I want to draw it out to you visually so that way you guys can understand really what's happening here. All right, so bro, look at this goofy ass security guard that we have right here. I want you to hear this out, right? Now, in this, I'm going to give you a quick example. I want you to just tell me what you think would happen, right? We now have a list. We have an array, okay? And this array, which is a list, has 3 emails in it. It has the first one, second one, and third one. Say we have a filter in the middle, and this filter says if the first email or the second email exists, I want you to pass through. You can pass through, okay? And now let's just pretend that in this, there's a third module somewhere down here in this assembly line. And this third module only wants to work with the third email. It's looking for that third one, okay? It doesn't care about the first. It doesn't care about the second. Only wants the third. So now, here's the question, Miles. This array will go into the filter, and the filter will look at the first email, and it will see that the first email does exist. So it will pass. Now, because we're using or at this point, it won't even look at the second condition it has, because when you use or, only one of them has to pass in order for the entire thing to pass forward. So here it saw the first one existed, and it's like, you know what? If the first or the second exists, I'm gonna let you through, and I see that the first one existed, so I don't care about the second. I'm gonna let you through. Is this third module going to be able to work with the third email? What do you think,
No.
Miles? Why do you think no?
Because it's only the first and the second.
Right? You would think that this guy right here is only gonna look at and let through the first and second, because we only said the filter for first and second. But here's what actually happens. The actual right answer is yes, it will be able to work with the third one. And let me show you literally what happens in the background, right? We're just gonna pretend this array is a box. Okay? We're gonna pretend this is a box. And this filter is looking at if the first email exists in the box or if the second email exists in the box. Now, mind you, the filter has access to the entire box. It's getting the box, and this box exists inside of the function that's in the filter. So do you remember how we set up in the condition? We're saying, hey, I want you to use this get function, and I'm giving you the box. Here it is right here. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So it's getting the entire box, and it's only just applying its condition to the very first email. But technically, it's not only just working with the first email, it's working with the entire box. So look at this, right? This security guard is going to open up the box, and he's going to see a bunch of emails, and he's going to look at the first email, and he's going to be like, yup, it's here, it exists. And then he's going to close up the box, put it back the way it was, and then he's going to take the entire box and move the entire box down the assembly line. Meaning, this third email, because it exists in this box and the box made it through customs, right? Let's just say this is customs, and the customs is only looking if one item exists in that box, it'll let the entire box through. Because this happened, the box passes through the security checkpoint, through the filter, through customs, and it makes it into the following module, which is gonna then open up that box again and grab just the third email. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, let's just say in a world where you didn't want the entire box to move through here. You really actually only wanted the first or second. What you would have to do is you would have to unpack this entire box right here, right? Let's just say we unpacked it and all of these are different emails. And then you would have to set up the filter to only look at the very first email, which is completely unpacked. It's on its own. So then what will happen is the first is going to hit the filter, and the filter is going to say, yep, this is the first, so I'm going to let it pass, and it's going to let it pass through. And then the second one is going to hit the filter, and because this exists right here, it's going to let it through. So it's going to go be like, yep, second just went through. And then the third one on its own, right? Not part of the box, on its own, will hit the filter. And because it's the third one, and it doesn't hit the first or second, it'll get blocked right here. And so will the rest of these.
Yeah, kind of. I think it would be better if we put it together.
Yeah. Well, at this point right now, we technically I don't need to show you this. You probably are going to see it later. But right now, our main goal is to finish setting up this filter. So we're saying only if the first email exists, I want you to pass through, let the entire box go through, so that way this guy can do his job, which is working with that very first email right here. Or actually, yeah, let's change it. Which is working with that very first email. So look at the output of the first name guy, right? We want it to just give us that first name or that last name. Right now, we can see the result is giving us an email. There's probably an issue inside of our system prompt. So let's open up our system prompt, figure out where that issue exists, right? You will recognize that Tom is the first name, Hanks. Only output the email and no other wording at all. That's probably where the issue is, right? I'm literally telling it to only output the email. Only output the first name or last name and no other wording at all. Send that through and let's just test that by itself. Let's see if it's actually doing what we need to do. So I'm going to unlink this right here. I'm going to drag the logo so that way this is the first module. So now we're going to test this just to make sure this is actually giving us a first or last name. So I'm going to run it from here. I'm going to click run once and boom, hit this. Now let's open up this and look at this. It's saying the result is Terry. That is the very first email it got. What is that very first email? That email is Terry Lawson at rotorooter.com. So this is correct. It only gave us Terry. Perfect. Do we care about last name at this point?
No, because it was only first name.
Exactly. But I'm gonna add one more thing to this. What if we did this on a whole other company, right? Maybe it wasn't Rotorooter. And the very first email was something like J Payne at Rotorooter. What would this first name guy output back to us? Because technically J Payne, you don't know the first name here. We can see that the first name starts with J. His last name is Payne. So how do we address this? We still want Payne, right? We still want this guy to give us Payne. But
I would tell ChatGPT to give it an example like that, where if it's the first initial of his first name and then his last name to address. We don't know if that's a guy or a girl though, huh?
so we
It
really
could
do
be
not.
Jennifer Payne. It could be
It could
Johnny
be James.
Payne.
Exactly. It could be James Payne or Jennifer Payne. So this one is pretty tricky because if we get an email that's like this and we want to write a personalized message to them, we address them wrong, like we say Mr. or Mrs., they're not even gonna bother reading the fucking rest of the email, right? Gonna be like, yo, this guy like has no idea who I am. This is probably bot. This is probably automated. So what's our solution here? What do you think we should do, Miles? We
Tell
have
ChatGPT to do research on the.
no. Think simpler.
No.
Think simpler. We have a bunch of emails. Okay.
Oh, let's
What
move on to another with a first name.
So what? So ideally, right? Imagine a world where we can have it look at multiple emails and then choose one of them that does have a first name and then write to it, right? So why don't we do that?
Yes.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we open up this system prompt? How are we going to do that, right? We're going to open this up and we're going to change up the system prompt a little bit. We're going to say you're an expert email analyzer. You're going to be receiving a list of emails. And here, let's just give it context about what could potentially happen. Okay, we're going to edit this. You will be receiving a list of emails. What should we say here, Miles?
Some with a first and last name and others.
Some emails will clearly show
First and last name.
Will clearly show. So what will some of the emails clearly? Oh shit! Hold on. So some emails will clearly show a first name. Some will clearly show a last name, and some will show both. And we're gonna say,
and then put
what's that?
Have a first initial, and then put some will have a first initial and a last name.
So I think we don't have to tell it that here. I think we can just give it examples, right? So let's just say, so here we told it what it's going to be getting. And here we can give it examples for those. Like we can say, you know what? This is an example of just the first name. This is an example of first and last name. And then we're going to add a third example for first letter of the first name and last name. I think that's probably going to be the easiest thing we can do because here we're just giving it context. Here we're going to give it examples of that context. So let's just make sure that this is only context, right? So the context here is some emails will clearly show a first name, some will clearly show a last name, and some will show both. Your job is to what? What is its new job?
Go through.
I would, let's change go through. Like, let's just say your job is to take a look at all of the emails you are given. Then what do we want it to do, right? We wanted to choose one that clearly can be addressed by the first name and the correct pronoun, right? Because we want to make sure we're properly addressing a guy and a guy, a girl and a girl. Once you do that, we then wanted to only output the first name of the chosen emails. So does that make sense? We just told it its job. The email you receive and find out if there's a first name within the emails, for example. Oh, wait, we don't need this. We don't need this. So now we're going to give it the examples, right? For example, you would receive something like Tom at companyname.com. Tom is the first names. Boom. Here's the last name, for example, this one. And an example of one that has only the first letter of the first name and the last name would be, let's say, T Hanks, right? Same example at companyname.com. Huh?
Do something else. That's gonna say think thanks.
T. Hanks. Right? So I'm gonna use a dot, just like how I use back here, right? I use a dot back here. I'm gonna use the same dot. T. Hanks at companyname.com, and then in parentheses, we're gonna tell it you would not choose this because we don't know what the first name is. Close the parentheses. That's it, right? We're pretty much done. We gave it its role.
Wait. I would do something totally different. Because what if it thinks that the email has to have a period in that example? I would do J Morgan.
So
Just change Hinks.
So I don't think it really cares about period because having a period in an email is normal syntax. And you gotta realize this thing was trained on millions of things. So it probably knows this period is okay. It's almost like a divider. If anything, this helps it differentiate the difference between the first name and last name. Because in the real world, a lot of people, when they have their professional emails and they have both their first and last, they're separated by period. So this will probably make its life easier to keep in here.
All right, let's try it.
Okay, so now we just fixed the system prompt. What do we have to do to the user? Right now we're only giving it the first email. So this is the first email, and then we're giving it the first email. Now what do we have to do, right? We have to give it other emails. So how are we gonna do that? We have to give it the second and third one in the same user content. So what do you think I should do, Miles?
This is the second email. This is the second email, and then get valid emails 2.
Exactly. So I'm gonna copy this. I'm just gonna paste it. I'm gonna change the word first to second, and I'm gonna change number 1 to 2, and then I'm gonna do the same thing to
number 3.
The third one. Exactly. So now we just told it all of the content that it needs to work with, and we gave it its system prompt, which is the instructions that it needs to do against these pieces of information. So I'm gonna click save, and let's test it out. What do you think would happen here? We have right now, if we ran this one more time, it's gonna get Terry, it's gonna get Jennifer, and it's gonna get Jay Payne. And you know what? Just for the fucking fun of it, I'm gonna say down here, I'm gonna say, tell me which one you did not choose. This is just to make sure that it's actually doing its job. In your final output, also tell me which one you did not choose and why. Right? Do you see what we're doing here, Miles? We're telling, you know what? Tell me which one you didn't choose and why. And right now, it's going to get the 3 of them. It's going to look at all 3. It's going to choose one, give me that one's name, and then tell me which one it didn't choose and why. So let's see if this works. I'm going to run it, and boom, it hit this one. Open it up. Look at the results. The result says just Jennifer. The reason why it says just Jennifer, it didn't tell us the last sentence. The reason why is because we probably have conflicting instructions. And this is something that a lot of you guys are going to experience, is sometimes in your system prompt, you're going to tell it to do something, but in another part of your system prompt, you're going to tell it something that conflicts, which means it goes against the first thing that you told it. So that's probably what we're running into right here. Let's just see where that confliction is. There it is, right? Only output the first name of the chosen email. It saw this first set of instructions first, and it just fucking avoided the second one. Does that make sense? So yeah. I'm going to change this, and I'm going to say, output the first name of the chosen email and output the one you did not choose and tell me why. Save, run it one more time, and let's look at the results now. So Jennifer is the one it chose, and we can see now Terry and Jay Payne under it. It did not tell us why it didn't choose it. Let's see why. Let's just see if we can fix that. And tell me why you did not choose the ones you didn't choose. Remember, we're working with an older model here. This guy's a little bit stupider than the rest of them. Let's see if there's anything else conflicting. There is. We have another confliction right here. Only output the first name or last name and no other wording at all. Look at this. And no other wording at all. Bro, we're literally telling it don't output any other wording. And then in another section, we're saying output wording. So Tom Hanks, you would recognize that Tom's the first name and Hanks is the last name. Only output the first name or last name. So let's remove that. An example one has only one letter would be da-da-da. You would not choose because you don't know what the first name. And your final output, tell me which one you did not choose and why. Okay. I don't think we have any other confliction. Let's run it now. And let's see if it gives us the thing we care about. Boom. So it looks like it did. Look at this. The chosen email, Jennifer.s. The reason for choice. The email Jennifer.s clearly contains a first name, Jennifer, which allows us to address the individual by their first name and use the correct pronoun, she. Notice it did not use Terry. Do you know why?
Because Terry has that period.
No, bro, because Terry is ambiguous in gender. Meaning Terry could be a guy's name or a girl's name.
True.
So do you remember in the system prompt we said we have to clearly make sure the pronoun is something that's accurate?
Yeah.
Look, It's telling us it did not choose Terry because the first name Terry is a common name for both males and females. Boom. And then look at this, not chosen, J Payne. Why? This email only contains the initial J and the last name Payne. Since it does not specify the full name, I cannot be certain about the first name, so I would avoid addressing it. So we just fucking verified that it's doing exactly what we wanted to do, Miles.
Let's go, baby.
Now let's open it up and change it to actually what we wanted to do, right? Let's remove those extra lines that we throw in there. Output, so we're gonna say output only the first name of the chosen email. We're gonna leave it at that. For example, first name is Tom. There's a last name, for example, Tom.Hanks. You will recognize that Tom is the first name and Hanks is the last name. Do not output any additional wording in your final output besides just the chosen first name. I'm actually gonna take that and throw it up there too. Once you do that, output only the first name. Do not output any additional wording in your final output besides just the chosen first name. Boom, boom. We just fixed the problem. Let's go. Now let's connect these and let's switch these back. This is our testing one, remember? We have to remove the shit ton of things from it. So I'm gonna unlink it and I'm gonna throw this guy back here. Oh shit, looks like our filter disappeared here. What was our filter? Only if the first one exists, right? Yeah. Also, probably would be helpful to mention that when you delete a module on both sides, like there's no connection to it on both sides, the filter might disappear, just like this. So what are we doing? We're doing get, and we're doing valid emails. Oh shit. The array, and we're saying first one, and we're saying exists, first name or first email exists. Oh wait, no, that wasn't it. This was if a website exists, right? Yeah, this was only if a website exists. Save this whole thing now. Cool. Now, Miles, there's one more thing that we have to account for, okay? And that is the fact that not all websites are gonna have emails under them. So look at this, right? An email finder is gonna go and it's gonna find a bunch of emails that belong to a specific website. So let's just say we feed it a website and that website does exist, right? It passes through the filter, it does exist. And here, a filter that says only if the first email exists. What if there's no emails at all, okay? What if there's just, that website exists, but that website has no emails under it? And this guy receives no emails. Or actually, it won't even pass through this right here. So this guy will receive nothing. What happens when ChatGPT receives nothing? It doesn't get an email at all. What is it gonna output, bro? Is it gonna know what to do? Is it gonna know what to do? No. So this is part of building AI systems, is having to kind of think ahead of time and account for what needs to happen based on potentially what could happen. And this example right here is a very, very real example because not all websites are gonna have emails under them. And we only train this employee to know what to do when it gets an email. So this filter says only if the first email exists, and if a website just doesn't have any emails, this guy's gonna be stuck. He's gonna have no idea what to do. So we have to account for that. I'm gonna open this up and I'm gonna say, you know what? If you don't get a first name at all, what I want you to do is I want you to output just one thing that tells us you got no emails at all. And that could be literally be anything, okay? That could be the word no. That could be the number 0. That could be any specific thing that we can use to filter for our advantage. So if it gets no email at all, let's just say we wanted to output the number 0. That's it. I'm going to jump down here in the system prompt and I'm going to say, if in the case where you get no emails at all, simply only output the number 0. And again, the idea behind this is if we look at the output and it's just, the result is just the number 0, then we can use that in the filter for the next module, right? We can say if the value is numerically equal to 0, then I want you to take this other path, right? Do you understand why we just did this? So look, this is the original system that I gave you. Look what happens here. We have our first name guy. If I open up, this is going to be basically a little bit of a different system prompt than the one we just wrote. But it's the same idea, right? We're saying you're an expert text analyzer. You're going to be given an email. You need to only output the first name. And look down here. We're saying if you are unable to get a clear first name from the email address, then output 0 only. And look what happens after that. Then we are going to something called a router. What this is this allows you to create different paths. You can see now our automation is not one train, it is now split into two paths. And if I wanted a third path, what I would do is click on it and look at this. Now I got a brand new third path that I can add a bunch of stuff to. Now, Miles, how do you think we determine which paths get taken that are thrown after this router? How do I make sure that the thing that's coming from here goes to the first path or goes to the second path? What is our number one mechanism to make sure that it goes the right path that it needs to go to?
If a name exists.
And what is that?
The first name in the email?
No. What is this? What is this thing? What is this mechanism?
Oh,
what is this?
The security guard?
It's a filter.
Filter.
It's a filter, bro. So basically, bro, for you to tell the automation to take a specific path, you have to 1,000,000% set up a filter, and only the things that pass this filter will go take this path. So let's take a look at this example right here, right? We're saying if you do not get any specific first name, output only the number 0. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So let's look at the first filter, okay? I'm gonna open this up. What does this filter say? Explain to me what this filter is and what it does, Miles.
If the name exists, it'll set the route as a fallback.
No, don't ignore this. This is not part of our filter, bro. This is saying that this route is a fallback, meaning it's a backup route that is used if none of the other routes worked. It's asking us, do you want to set it as a fallback route? We don't care about that right now. This is something that we're not going to be using at all at this point. So let's just pretend we have 3 routes, okay? And the filter didn't work for all 3 of them. So what happens at this point? The automation is going to fail, right? It's going to stop right here. It's not going to continue forward. If you toggle this button on, then it will just use this path as the fallback. It will fall back to this path and just go through this path. That's basically what that means. So ignore this. I want you to tell me what's happening in this filter right now.
If the first name exists in the email,
why did you say in the email?
Because that's what it's looking for, right?
You tell me, what is it looking for? Based on the filter you're looking at right now, what is it looking at in order to decide what happens in this filter?
The result of the ChatGPT.
The result of the first name guy, right?
First name guy.
So explain to me this filter. What is it saying?
Whatever name that ChatGPT pulls.
Think wider.
Whatever name that ChatGPT pulls from.
Think wider. We are mapping the result, right? And
I don't even know. I have no idea. I'm stumped.
I got you. So you see how so this filter is looking at the result, correct?
Yeah.
And this result could either be a first name or what else? This guy is gonna output only a first.
I don't know how you would explain it, like an initial and then an email, an initial last
bro.
name email.
So the output of this ChatGPT node could be one of 2 things. Based on this system prompt, tell me what could it potentially output. Just read this and tell me what is it gonna potentially output. What are the 2 outcomes that could potentially come out of this ChatGPT node?
Oh, a first name from an email or 0.
That's it, right? It is only going to give you either a first name or the number 0. So now if I open up this filter, now explain to me this filter.
So it's only going to be the first name.
No. Explain it to me the way that it's shown to you. This is not showing you first name. Remember, this is just the result. This could be a first name or it could be 0. We don't know what it is. We're saying to this filter that the output that's coming out of the ChatGPT module, whatever the fuck that output looks like, cannot be numerically equal to 0, which means by default, what would pass?
Just the first name.
That's it. Yes. You're saying in this filter that only if the results coming out of ChatGPT are not 0, I want you to take this path. Now look at the filter under it. This saying an email exists, but there's no first name. And here we're saying the result that's coming out of ChatGPT, which could be either a first name or the number 0. We're saying whatever the fuck that result is, if that result is equal to 0, I want you to go to this path. Do you see what we just did here?
Yeah, the two options that you gave for the router or
There,
that you
there.
gave for ChatGPT.
So let's bring this to the board here. Look, this could either be a name or zero. If it's a name, okay, and the name hits the router and the name goes through this path, and this filter says if the output is not zero, which in this case it's name, it's not zero, it will go through here. But if this same name, the same exact name, hits this output, hits this filter, and this filter wants only zero, obviously name is not zero. So it will fail right here. So it will fail and it will only take this path. Do you understand this?
Yeah.
Let's look at the opposite, right? You have zero. Zero hits the router and the router sends it here. And this filter wants not zero. Because this is zero and this guy wants not zero, it's going to fail. It's never going to make it through this. And then because it fails here, it's going to get sent down here. And this guy is looking for zero, right? Because we have equal to zero. And because this is zero and this one wants a zero, it's going to make it through this path. So this is what we are going to have to set up next. We're going to have to set up a router. And you guys can see the way I did that is by clicking the plus sign. And I just searched for the word router at the top. Or you can go to this flow control, which by the way is one of the most commonly used modules. And you see it down here along with the other ones that are commonly used. So you can just click on flow control and it'll show you a bunch of them. And you can just pick router. It's going to be the very first one and then connect it. And here, all you have to do to create a brand new path is just click the plus sign inside the router. So click it once and it shows you two different paths. And now we're going to set up the filters for those two different paths. So we're going to open up this guy and we're going to say only if it's a first name, go through here. Now, Miles, I want you to walk me through how are we going to set up this filter? We want only first names to go through that path. What are we going to do? Go. Result.
And then name.
What do I do here?
Oh, result equal to exists.
Nope.
Scroll down.
Why would we not use exists?
Or equal to.
Equal to?
Two?
So let's look, let's think about this, Miles. This result could be one of two things. What are those two things?
Name or zero. A first name or zero.
Okay, a first name or zero, which means we can either use a text operator or a number operator. Which one would make more sense to use?
Not equal to.
Not equal to in what category? The text or the numeric?
Numeric.
And why is that?
Because it's not equal to zero, meaning it would go that route.
Exactly. It's not equal to zero, meaning it's anything else besides zero. It will go this route. Save. Now what do we have to do for the second one?
Zero first.
So the first name does not exist, right? So the filter here is saying the first name does not exist. And we told ChatGPT if a first name doesn't exist, output zero. So how are we going to filter this?
Click that.
Yep.
Click result.
Mm-hmm.
And then equal to zero.
This one?
No, numeric.
Why?
Because it's zero is a number.
Exactly, because we're dealing with numbers. So equal to zero.
Zero.
Save. And boom. We just set up two different paths that this automation could take based on the result of this guy. You see how that just worked? Now it makes sense to you, right? I just want to make sure that this makes sense and how it was set up and why we did this. So now, Miles, let's look at our original thing, okay? What do we do after this? This is the original file that I sent you. We have Google Sheet modules.
Write the personalized email in Google Sheets.
No. Nope.
Nope.
Why is that not the right answer?
I think because...
Remember, so far what we did is we dumped a bunch of information that we pulled from Applify inside of a Google Sheets. Did the information that we dump here have their first and last names? It did not. No. Then we pulled their emails, and then we dumped their emails back into the Google Sheet where they belong, right? So what are we missing? Let's actually open up the that Google Sheet here. You can see these are like all of our other older RUMs here. What are we missing, bro? Look at all these columns, right? Company name, phone number, address, street, state, city, website, phone number, and all their emails. What are we missing?
We are missing...
What did we just pull in the automation? It's right in front of you, twin.
Their first name.
Their first name. Do you see their first names here? No, the only place we see their first names is in their emails, right? So if I look at this Google Sheets module, which is in that example that I gave you of the build, we can see that we have a column called first name, and the only thing this does is it adds the results of the module number 26, which you can see that's this number right here, 26, into the first name column. So let's go back into our system. Let's do that. Now, at this point, Miles, technically what we could do, we can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. Ask me how.
How?
Do you remember how right here?
Oh, we'll copy it.
We're adding a row of all of this stuff.
Yeah, we'll add a row for names.
Why is adding a row for names not the right answer here?
Because it's too simple.
And think about the action. The action is adding a row. Right here,
Oh,
we added a brand new row. But the names don't belong in a brand new row. They belong in an existing row.
So we'd have to make a Google Sheets and then add a name.
Look at the actions that we have available, right? So look, we have a bunch of rows, and now we want to throw a first name on the row that they belong into. How do we do that? What should we do to throw a name on an existing row?
Update a row.
Exactly. We are updating the row. Now look what happens here. When I click on update a row, it's going to ask me, okay, what is the Google Sheet that you want me to update into? So I'm going to click on the sheet, which is Miles Info Dump. That's the one we've been working out of. And it's going to ask me for the sheet name, and it's going to be sheet 1. And then it's going to ask me for row number. Now, Miles, what do you think we should map here in the row number? And I'm going to see your critical thinking here, bro. Because based off of everything that we just did and everything that I've shown you here, I want you to tell me where we should look to find the correct row number and how are we going to map it? What do we need to do? Which array has the row number, Miles? Where do you see an array with a row number? First of all, where is a row number? Just think about this. Very simple question, bro. We have to get a row number, a Google Sheet row number, the same one that the information needs to be dumped into. Where can we get this row number?
Updated rows?
We are inside of the update a row module.
No, right there. Google Sheets down there, the bottom.
Google Sheets. Okay, where is this update a row is asking which row should I throw information into? Where do we get that from, Miles? It's right in front of you. What is it asking for?
Row number. Right there. The bottom of Google Sheets.
That's it. Boom. Now, what do we just do by mapping that?
Pulled the updated row number.
We got a bunch of emails and a bunch of information. We threw all of those emails and information in specific rows. Okay, let me explain to you what we just did, bro. I'm gonna run it very, very quickly. Let me show you what we just did and why we just did it. I'm gonna disconnect it right here, and I'm gonna let the automation start at the email finder one. Okay, I'm gonna unlink, start at email finder. So now what's gonna happen is we're gonna get an array of 9 different emails, correct? They're gonna pass through because the website is gonna exist, and this guy is gonna add the emails in those specific rows that they belong into. Remember, I actually have to swap these out because that's my testing one. So I'm going to remove this one, unlink this guy, throw that back here, get rid of this. And by the way, the only reason I'm doing this is because these are empty, remember? So because they're empty, we get to test. Otherwise, we're going to have to fill them out with random bullshit. So I'm going to click save. And here, I'm going to run the whole thing, and I'm going to show you what's happening. So look, boom, I just ran it. It's going to do its thing. I'm going to open up Google Sheets, and I can see that it threw all the emails here, right? We got Terry, we got Jennifer, we got Berta, all the way up until email 67. Open this up. I knew it. I fucking knew it. So we're going to open up Google Sheets and we're going to see, okay, where did it throw all of these emails? What row did it throw these on, Miles?
On row 8.
Row 8. We can see that right here. Okay. So here's what it's telling you. It's telling you I updated 1 row and I updated 7 columns and I updated 7 cells. And I did all of that on row 8. This is what it's saying. So we just found out that it did all of this on row 8 right here. Meaning, Miles, that the next time we run something and this add a row throws a bunch of information somewhere, wherever that information is thrown is the row that we're dumping information into. And obviously, if the first name belongs to that row because it's one of these people's first name, we would want it to be on the same row where they exist, right? Which means whatever row number comes out of this is the exact row number that the information was dumped into where that first name belongs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Explain it to me.
No, it doesn't make sense. That part doesn't make sense.
The fuck you
Not
saying
really.
yeah for then?
I had a questionable tone in my yeah.
So
If you
look, so
couldn't
look,
hear.
okay, so look, let's walk through one more time. Any email finder gave us 9 emails, okay? Those 9 emails passed through a filter, and all of them, the ones that we care about, got added into a row, correct? And that row was
8.
row 8. Now we can see that happened on row 8 because if we open up the results of this guy, of the output, it's telling us that it updated row 8 right here.
Yep.
So right now we have an association. We have row 8 is where this information was dumped into. Now, first name AI is working with one of these emails, correct? And those emails live on row 8, literally because that information was dumped into row 8. This is the same exact row where that information lives, which means when we're setting up our update a row and it asks us what row number, we can confidently use this row number because whatever number shows up here is the same exact row number where this information got dumped. Does that make sense? Do you actually get it now? So let's just say this row number was 9. That tells me that all of the emails got dumped into row 9, which would be right here. And if this guy outputted row 9, meaning it finished its job in row 9 instead of 8, that tells me that first name guy looked at the emails that are in row 9, pulled the first name, and this first name belongs to row. Supposed to finish the sentence, bro.
9.
Row 9. Exactly. Does it make sense why?
Yes.
All right, explain it to me.
Just because we put that for the row number, right?
So I'm explaining to you why we can use this row number variable here confidently. The only reason we can use this is because whatever row number information was dumped into in the add a row module is the same exact row number where the first name should belong. These two cannot be two.
Will it put the first name in that row? Will it put the first name in that row?
That's literally what I'm telling you right now. That's how we're making sure it puts the first name in that row, Miles.
Okay, run it.
It's because we're saying, okay, I want you to update a specific row. And naturally, I want this update to go on the same row where those emails were dumped, Miles. So I'm going to open this up and it's going to ask me, what is that row number? Obviously, I want this to be dynamic. I'm not going to sit here and I'm going to type 9 every time. The only way for me to make this dynamic is to grab it from another module. And the only other module I can grab it from is the Google Sheets module. And because this Google Sheets module dumped information, the same information that the first name lives with on this row, this tells me that I can use this row number.
Because that's what we put in previously.
Because that's where it dumped that same information to previously. So look now, does the table contain headers? Yes, here's the headers. And we don't actually have a column for first name. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna jump back here and I'm going to, you know what? Instead of adding it here, I'm gonna add it after email 7. I'm gonna say right here, first name, boom. So now I'm gonna jump back here and I'm gonna refresh this because I just added something brand new. And as soon as I refresh that, I'm gonna go down, look right here, first name. Now what are we mapping here, Miles?
Result from ChatGPT.
Because this result only shows the first name, right? And you can see that in the preview right here, the gray one. So I'm gonna drag this variable, drop it here, and boom. Now this first name is going to live where it belongs on the same exact row where the other information belongs, that it's a part of. It's not gonna be with some random other business. It's gonna be in the same exact row that it needs. So let's test it, right? I'm gonna click save, and now let's jump back here. I'm gonna delete all the testing that we've been doing, and then we have a brand new empty thing. So I'm gonna jump back here, and I'm gonna click run once, and then go immediately here. Now look what happened, right? Boom, all the emails dumped. And what do we have in the first name field?
Jennifer.
And Jennifer belongs right here.
Because Jennifer pulled that from Roto-Rooter.
There you go. So we can see Jennifer belongs to this row. It's part of this same email group that it's in. Right here. Boom.
How come it didn't pull Mark Connors?
So it didn't pull Mark Connors. The reason why is because if we go to first name guy and we look at the options that we gave it, what do we give it?
Valid emails?
No. Look at the content that we told it to look at. What did we give it?
Only 3 emails.
Which 3? The first, second,
First, second, and third.
And you just asked me, why did it not take Mark? Where's Mark live?
Fourth.
So is it even seeing any of these?
No.
ChatGPT doesn't even see these. It doesn't even consider them. In its brain, those don't exist because we didn't give it to them right here. Now, if I were to do this right here and give it number 4, guess what? Now, because I did this, ChatGPT will now see the first 4. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does.
Because we literally just fed it the 4th one. Otherwise, it just won't even know these exist at all. So now we just verified this is working. Let's look at the original one. And what are we doing if an email exists, but no first name, right? This is if the result is 0. Let's open this up and see what that config look like. We're still throwing the result, which is the 0 in the same row. But this just tells us that there's no first name there. So if we open up that sheet and we saw a 0, we know that there was just no first name as part of any of the other emails. So we're going to do the same exact thing, right? We're going to jump back here. And because this is so similar, we're pretty much going to just clone it and put it right here. Now notice, because I threw it in the middle, the filter stayed where it's at. It kind of moved. So I'm just going to have to reset up this filter right here. That's all. First name doesn't exist. I'm going to say result numerically equals to 0. Done. Unlink, delete. So boom, now we just set up 2 different paths where no matter what happens, we're either going to get their first name or we are going to get a field that tells us there was no first name found.